Welcome back to Grace Space. We are here on our island paradise for week 5. Week 5, not 4. This is our last week.
Yeah.
I think. Where's our 4th one? That's okay. We are going to do some hula hoops because maybe you've been on vacation and people do hula hoops. I feel like only really cool people know how to hula hoop, and I'll be honest, I don't know how to hula hoop. So maybe you have one. Maybe you just want to guess who can hula hoop the longest out of us. We're gonna do it. Go. Here we go. I feel like, well, Emma's gonna win. I'm just gonna tell you right now. Oh my goodness. What? Do you do this professionally?
I'm struggling.
This was not on your resume. Wow.
Professional hula hooper.
I don't even think I should try at this point. I think we're going on to almost a minute.
Okay, well maybe that's enough.
Yeah, that was a lot. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
are you ready? Here we go. Did it! Woo! Obviously, I'm not going to be hired to be a professional hula hooper.
That was fun.
That was a good one. Maybe you guys love to do it. Maybe you've been inspired and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy a hula hoop and be
Alright.
just like Emma.
Okay, well after Joseph got to Egypt, do you guys remember from last week?
We talked about Joseph.
Yeah. He remained true to God. He had his ups and his downs, but eventually ended up in prison.
Ooh.
This is where we're going to resume our story.
Right, so if you remember from last week, we talked about how Joseph, his brothers, did not like him because of his dreams, and so they gave him up and they traded him to these people who took him to Egypt. Here we go.
Yeah, okay, so the Ishmaelite traders brought him to Egypt, where he was sold to a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was one of Pharaoh's officials. The Lord blessed Joseph so that Potiphar's household prospered. God's blessing did not escape Potiphar's notice, and he decided to put Joseph in charge of everything he owned.
Everything. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, well, and things seemed to be going well for Joseph, but there was trouble brewing.
Oh, no.
You see, Potiphar's wife didn't like Joseph, so
Another
she
person.
schemed a way to get him in trouble. She made up a lie that Joseph had disrespected her.
That's not nice.
She reported this lie to her husband, and Potiphar had Joseph thrown in prison.
My goodness.
It might seem at first like nothing was going right for Joseph, but God was still with him. God blessed Joseph even in prison so that he was put in charge of the other prisoners. And Joseph was
So much
not alone
responsibility.
in prison.
Wow.
Yeah. 2 of Pharaoh's workers, his cupbearer and baker, were also being held there. So let's read in God's word to hear what happens next. Okay, when Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were in custody with him in his master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them."
Oh.
Then-
Joseph dreams.
Yeah. So then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the cupbearer explained his strange dream first. In his dream, he saw three branches full of ripe, juicy grapes.
Ooh,
In his hand, he held Pharaoh's cup, and the cup was filled with juice from those delicious grapes. Then he put the cup in Pharaoh's own hand. With God's help, Joseph gave the cupbearer his interpretation, saying that in 3 days' time he would be restored to his job as Pharaoh's cupbearer. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him when he got out of prison so that he could help Joseph be released as well. And then the baker shared his dream, explaining that in his dream he was carrying 3 baskets of bread for Pharaoh on his head. On his way to deliver the food, birds ate up the bread from the baskets. And this time, Joseph's interpretation was not so nice.
No.
Joseph told the baker that in 3 days' time, Pharaoh would have the baker executed.
That's not good.
Not good
I
at
don't wanna be a
all.
baker anymore.
And just as Joseph said, within 3 days, both interpretations came true.
Whoa.
The cupbearer was restored to his job, and the baker was put to death.
Damn.
Unfortunately, the cupbearer forgot all about Joseph
Oh,
until
no.
2 whole years later.
He was in prison for 2 years?
2 more years.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
And Pharaoh himself had 2 strange dreams. He asked all the magicians, sorcerers, and wise men of Egypt to interpret it for him, but none of them could. The news of the dreams reached the cupbearer, and suddenly he remembered the young Hebrew man in prison who had interpreted his own strange dream 2 years earlier.
Oh my goodness.
So he went to Pharaoh and told him about Joseph, who was then brought before Pharaoh to hear the dream.
Wow.
Okay, it says, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one can interpret it, but I have heard I've heard it said of you that when you hear a dream you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh.
Why not?
But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires.
Oh.
So Joseph gave God all the credit for helping him interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Pharaoh described his dreams to Joseph. In his dream, Pharaoh was standing on the bank of the Nile River when suddenly 7 fat, healthy cows came out of the water. After them came 7 sickly, thin cows that ate up the healthy ones.
Not good.
In his dream, Pharaoh saw a stalk of wheat with 7 healthy heads of grain sprouting, and suddenly 7 shriveled heads of grain sprouted and swallowed up the healthy ones.
Also not good.
Not good. With God's help, Joseph interpreted the dreams for Pharaoh, explaining that the 7 healthy cows meant there would be 7 years of abundant food in Egypt, followed by 7 years of famine.
Ooh.
So famine means when there's no food for anyone to eat.
Right. That's not good.
Yeah, so not only did Joseph interpret the dreams correctly, but he also had an idea to save the nation of Egypt. He suggested to Pharaoh that during the 7 years of abundance, some of the food should be stored away in cities throughout Egypt. That way, during the famine, there would be food to keep the people from starvation.
Smart.
Yeah, and Pharaoh liked this idea so well that he put Joseph in a high government position in Egypt. Remember, God was always with Joseph, even during his suffering. God used what people planned for evil and brought good things from it.
Wow. Man, and his dream, if we remember from last week, his dream was about wheat. And then also the Pharaoh's dream was about wheat. It's pretty cool. So now that we got into this point in the story, Joseph's future looks bright. His God-given gift has put him in a position of power. And just as the dream predicted, after 7 years of plenty, there were 7 years of famine. Because of Joseph's good planning, there was plenty of grain stored up.
And back in Canaan, Joseph's family was hungry because of the famine, and his brothers, the one who had thrown him in the pit and sold him to traders, came to Egypt to buy grain. They did not know that the one in charge was their brother, the one they had treated so poorly.
Man, what would you have said to the brothers if you were Joseph? Like, they hadn't seen, the last time he saw his brothers, they like traded him to go to Egypt. Mm-hmm. So when Joseph was reunited with his brothers, he said in Genesis 45, 1-8, something important. We're gonna quickly, if you didn't get it before us, Genesis is the beginning of the Bible. I don't know, if I saw someone for the first time in forever, I would be a little upset. Look at, I beat you.
No way.
Genesis 45, 1-8 says, Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, Have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to my brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. I mean, they did something pretty horrible to him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, Come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. What? That's a great perspective. For 2 years now, there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant of earth, or a remnant on earth, and save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of Egypt. What? Okay.
Wow.
How do you think that reaction was? Do you think that was a good reaction?
I mean, Joseph forgave his brothers.
Right?
He told them that God had been in control all along. Because Joseph trusted in God's promises, the family was saved. They all moved to Egypt, where they lived for many years more.
That's so cool.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Can you guys remember how long Joseph waited for God to keep the promise he made to him? Do you know? It was a long time.
It was 13 years. Did you guys get that? So long. Yeah, most of you aren't even 13 years old. As Joseph's circumstances kept going from bad to worse, it would have been very easy to give up and think God had forgotten about him. It took a long time for the dreams Joseph had to come true, but Joseph knew God keeps his promises.
Yeah, so good. So when was the longest you've ever had to wait for something? I'm not a very patient person. I'm bad at waiting.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes popcorn takes too long in the microwave, and I get too excited and I stop it early, then I have a bunch of kernels at the bottom. See, I'm not good at waiting. And that's only like 2 minutes. Well, when's the longest you've waited for something?
That's a great question. I mean, I feel like everyone can probably relate to waiting to see their family members during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to wait 2 years to see my grandma again.
That's crazy.
Almost. Yeah.
Or maybe a fun vacation you guys is knowing coming up in a couple months.
Yeah.
That's always fun to wait for. Counting down the sleeps. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Joseph went through a lot of bad times before he saw the future he had dreamed of. His brothers tossed him into a well and then sold him to traders in Egypt, and he even ended up in prison, even though he did nothing wrong. But even through the rough times, he knew God would keep his promises.
And we have a little object lesson we're gonna do.
All right. So we're each going to take a piece of paper here
All right.
and crumple it up just right into a ball.
It's nice and easy.
Okay, and then we're going to straighten it back out.
Okay.
Having a hard time. Okay, and then I have some crayons here. Do you want to use pink or green?
Green.
And then you just rub the crayon across it. You guys can do this at home too if you want.
This looks cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
That is cool.
Makes an awesome design on it.
Yeah.
And it's caused by the stress of the crumpling of the paper. So this paper reminds us that even in hard times, God is with us, can make something beautiful out of it. The color reminds us that God is with us and God keeps his promises to us.
Okay.
All right, we're back for another segment.
Da, 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 da. Are you ready? Questions with Austin.
And I'm Austin. Welcome back.
I'm gonna start a new career of just doing jingles. That's my new thing.
Theme song P-Chat. There we go.
P-Chat?
Has it caught on yet?
I don't think so. No
Dang
one
it.
calls me P-Chat.
Maybe one day.
Austin decided that instead of Pastor Shay, I should be called P-Chat.
Well, because, like, she always signs off her emails P. Shay, but then autocorrect turns Shay into chat.
It does.
So P-Chat.
P-Chat. There you go.
That-
That'd be kind of funny.
Just some information for you all. Fun
Just
facts.
a little time.
Fun facts on Questions with Austin.
Yeah.
But now the
Little
questions.
rabbit trail.
What were the Pharaoh's dreams?
Ooh, can you remember? Do you guys remember? The one, like, I think the first one was about the cows. And there was
The
like
fat cows.
fat cows. and
Seven
then
fat cows?
7 fat cows, and then 7 skinny cows, and they like ate them.
Yeah.
And then there was 7 like belushes of wheat, and then there was 7 like scrawny wheats, and they came and destroyed them.
Yeah. The scrawny wheats had no chance.
Yeah. It was a wild time.
So what does that mean? What does fat cows and scrawny wheats mean to us?
Well,
Or them?
well, to them, yeah. So basically what happened was God was telling Pharaoh that there was going to be 7 years of like amazing, you were going to have so much food, and then there was going to be 7 years of no food whatsoever. So they were like, oh, really good idea. Why don't we save the food for when there's no more food?
Man,
very
you
smart.
just skipped right to the next
Oh,
question.
yeah.
What did they do about it? Boom, they saved it. So good. All right, in Genesis 45, verse 5, it says, "And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." This was Joseph talking to his brothers. Joseph forgave his brothers. Why did he tell them not to be angry with themselves?
Oh, well, I think it's because what they did is they got rid of their brother and they didn't care for him anymore. So, I mean, I would feel really bad if I saw someone that I really hurt. Like they left him out on his own and they sold him to people he didn't know, and it was a whole thing. So I feel like they would feel a lot of guilt and shame with that.
That'd be difficult.
Yeah.
All right, what are some of God's promises?
Ooh,
That's a big question.
that is a big question. Well, when we read through the Old Testament, we see that God has a lot of promises that he gives to the Israelites, but a promise that he fulfilled throughout all the Bible, is Jesus, is that he was going to reconnect us with him through his son Jesus. So that's my favorite promise, that Jesus came to defeat death so that we could have a relationship with him. That's my favorite promise.
And like another promise in the Bible that we can see physically with our eyes whenever it rains is the rainbow.
Right, we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and just how God promising not to flood the earth like he did back in Noah. And that's a promise from the Bible that we can see with our own eyes, which is really cool.
Yeah.
What helps you remember that God keeps promises?
I mean, the rainbow is a great one. That can remind us when we see a rainbow in the sky, it's like, oh man, God kept that big promise, and he'll keep promises to us as well.
Knowing and trusting him.
Knowing and trusting him. Yeah.
Reading what he's done in the past. And
yeah, those are all great ways. Well, okay. We have our big idea.
We have our big idea. We have another fish.
Fish. We're going to go fishing. Ready? Whoa. What does this one say? Should we say it together? 3, 2, 1.
God keeps
his promises. You guys say that
Bam.
with us? Oh, and. Did you say and?
I said bam.
Oh,
Like bam.
and
bam,
there's
bam,
more.
bam.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. We can say it together.
God keeps his promises.
Woo!
What kind of fish is this?
I don't know. It's a bluefish.
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 Instead of a goldfish, we got bluefish.
Toothfish. Isn't there like a...
Two fish?
Yeah, isn't there
One
like
fish,
a...
two fish, red fish, blue fish.
Yeah. What is
Dr.
that?
Seuss.
Dr. Seuss.
We learned a lot about promises this month. We learned that God promises to fix what was broken. God promised us mercy. God's promises are for now and for later. And God's promises might take time, but none of these are just empty words because
God
keeps
keeps
his promises. Bam.
Bam.
All right.
Should
We
we
have
get
our
into
memory
memory
verse.
verse?
Let's do our memory
Memory
verse.
verse.
Whoa.
Here we go. Bam.
Bam. All right. Do you know the actions?
I guess I'm doing the actions.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm not trusted with the actions
It's okay. We'll get you there.
because I just make new ones up every time.
That's all good.
Okay. Joshua 21:45 says this: "Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled."
Woo.
Woo. So good. So true. Amazing. Let's go hang out with Carl and Callie.
We should. But first, I think we should pray.
We should.
Okay, let's put our hands together because we're going to focus on God, and then we close our eyes because we also want to focus on him. Lord God, we love you so much, and you are the God who keeps your promises. Help us to remember this when things are rough, and that you are always with us, and that you always keep your promises. Will we be reminded by the stories we read in the Bible, by the things in our lives, that you are with us, and that your promises are a reminder for us that you are not leaving us alone. Will you bless each person listening, and will they just know your love, and will they know who you are? In your holy mighty name, everyone said, Amen. All right, friends.
Amen.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Next week.
Bye.
Bam.
Hi there, you old chicken nuggets. It's me, Carl, and welcome to Grow TV.
Hey everybody, it's me, Cassie, and I'm super excited today because it's my birthday, and you know what that means.
What?
Come on, you know.
I don't.
Last year you forgot to buy me a present, and this year you said you were going to buy me something really great. Remember that, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Grow TV. Introducing your host, Carl. And your co-host, Cassie. Where we learn, where we grow, and we talk about Jesus. Once again, welcome to Grow TV.
Hi, Cassie. So it's your birthday today.
Yep, but you already knew that.
Of course I did. Happy birthday.
Thanks. So what'd you get me?
Well, it's a surprise. Come in.
Why'd you yell that?
Someone ring the doorbell.
I didn't hear anything.
Well, your hearing must be getting worse with age, Cassie. You should go see who it is.
I don't know.
Oh, someone's knocking.
All right, I'll go check.
Okay, everyone, I did not know it was her birthday, and I cannot not get her a gift again. It'll make me the worst friend ever. So we gotta make a gift.
Hey, I'll just do this.
There's no knocking outside. It was just that lady who's always screaming at the birds. What is this?
This? It's your surprise present.
My surprise?
Yep, be careful with it though. I spent a lot of money on it.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Just say thank you.
Thanks. Carl,
Yeah?
you forgot my birthday, didn't you?
What? No! No way did I forget your birthday. You're crazy. That's insane. No way did I forget your birthday. Okay, yeah, I did forget your birthday.
You didn't spend any money on this, did you?
I did buy the tape.
Listen, Carl.
No, Cassie, I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I know I promised I wouldn't forget, but I did. And I really tried.
Carl, it's okay.
What do you mean?
I knew you forgot, and I just want you to know it's okay. I actually kind of like the present.
Do you?
Sure. And to be honest, the promises I care about the most aren't the ones my friends make. It's the promises God makes, because you know they're always going to come true.
Always?
Always.
Always.
Yes, always. You remember Joseph? He was put in prison for something he didn't even do. But even in prison, God was still with him. Joseph had a gift of interpreting dreams, and one day Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, heard about it. Pharaoh asked Joseph to tell him what his weird dreams meant, and Joseph did. Joseph also gave him advice to plan ahead for the tough times coming, based on the dreams Pharaoh had. This impressed Pharaoh so much that he had Joseph taken out of prison and become second in command over all of Egypt. And then years later, his brothers, who thought he was dead, reunited with him and bowed at his feet.
Whoa, just like the dream he had when he was younger.
Yep, God kept the promises to Joseph, and God is keeping the promises to us now.
Like what kind of promises? Maybe I can get a promise and give it to you for your birthday.
That's nice of you, but everyone gets God's promises. It doesn't matter who you are. God's promises are for everyone.
All right, I knew that. Like, every time I clear my plate at dinner, I get dessert. Every time I eat dessert, I get really hyper.
I don't think any of those are promises God made. We can read the Bible to find real promises from God. Like Isaiah 41:10 tells us God promises to always be with us, so we don't have to be afraid. Matthew 6:33 says God promises to give us what is best for us when we put God first. And 1 John 1:9 says God promises to forgive us when we mess up.
Those are some awesome promises. God made all of them?
Yep, and not only does God make us promises, God keeps promises.
Can I promise you one thing right now?
Sure?
I promise I'm telling you the truth when I say, that's our big idea! Our big idea is God keeps promises.
So let's say it on the count of 3, okay?
Okay, 1,
2,
3. God keeps promises! Good job, everybody! Woohoo!
Thanks, Carl. you forgot, you really made my day special.
Well, thanks for being understanding. I'm not very good at promises.
No worries. Plus, I ordered a cake for lunch, and I told them you'd pay for it. That's all right, right? See you next week, kiddos.
Thank you for watching, and tune in next week for a new episode of Row TV.
What's up, friends? I kind of feel like we're family now. This is like the 5th episode of this vlog, and we're gaining more subscribers. I think, like everything, if we keep going, stuff is bound to happen, right? Hold 1 minute. Let me feed Grub. Are you hungry, Grub?
A few moments later.
Oh, look! We have a new comment here. This is from Johnny. Johnny says, so after Joseph was taken to Egypt, what happened next? Well, Johnny, let's find out, because I have no idea.
It's time for our Bible story. After Joseph's brothers had sent him away, he ended up in a different land called Egypt. Joseph worked very hard in this new place.
But wasn't he sad?
I'm sure he was, but he knew that what God promised in his dreams would happen eventually. Joseph worked for a very important man in Egypt named Potiphar. Potiphar trusted Joseph and put him in charge of his entire house.
That sounds like a big job.
It sure was, and Joseph took it very seriously. But one day, Potiphar's wife told a lie about Joseph, which made Potiphar very angry, and he sent Joseph to prison right away.
Oh no, it seems like only bad things are happening to Joseph.
It does seem that way, but guess what? Joseph knew he did nothing wrong. So even in prison, he kept working hard and never gave up on the dreams God showed him a long time ago.
He trusted God.
He did. Joseph's gift became known to other prisoners around him. They tell him their own dreams, and Joseph would then tell them what it meant. It was a wonderful gift that he had. After some time, the Pharaoh of Egypt heard about Joseph and his gift for explaining the meanings of dreams. You see, Pharaoh had some bad dreams himself and needed some help.
Oh my!
So Joseph was taken to see Pharaoh. Joseph told Pharaoh what his dreams meant and that they were going to have 7 good years and 7 very bad years. There would be no food in the land during the bad years.
For 7 years?
Yes, but don't worry, Joseph gave Pharaoh a plan. They'd need to save extra food within the 7 good years, so they would have enough food for the 7 bad years that would come after. Pharaoh was very happy with that idea and set Joseph free from prison.
Awesome!
It didn't stop there. As time went on and the bad years came, Joseph's family back home were running out of food. So Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to buy food. By now, Joseph was a very important man in Egypt.
If I were Joseph, I would have said, told ya!
Can you imagine how Joseph must have felt? Happy to see them, but also sad and maybe even a little angry. But in the end, Joseph recognized them and forgave them for being mean to him. After that, the entire family moved to Egypt, where Joseph could make sure that they were well. It took what seemed like a long time, but God's promises came true. Joseph saved his family and helped to save all of Egypt too. He was an important man that everyone looked up to, just as he had dreamt a long time ago.
That's amazing. So God really kept his promise to Joseph. Yeah, it took some time, but it happened. God kept the promises that used to be just dreams to Joseph. Joseph did become someone super important, and because of that, he was able to save his whole family. I wonder what promises God will keep in our lives. So guys, today has been amazing. We learned so many amazing things about God that blows my mind. I feel good about it too though, and so should you. Catch you next week on this Callie's World.